All right, welcome to the Improve and Have Fun podcast. We just came, Jason G, myself, we have Alex here as well. We just came out of seeing Alita Battle Angel. And what do you think, Jason? What do you think about Alita Battle Angel?
Yeah, it was really exciting sci-fi action movie. I've heard of that story before. I knew it was a manga. I knew it was an animated series, and it was back in the early '90s, and it was a while ago. But I did remember it. But my wife, she bought me the first 2 volumes of the manga series, and recently as a gift. And then I started reading so I did read the first third of the new one, but. Anyway, I'm now after watching the movie, I really want to read the rest of it and find out more of the details. But it's kind of good to watch it with fresh eyes, so I'm not like comparing it. And I had a great time. I mean, the movie was 2 hours and 2 minutes, I think, and it felt even longer. Like it was so much packed in there. There were reviews saying that it didn't have a lot of heart, but I thought it did. I mean, I thought they really showed how her and her boyfriend were like involved in how they were about, like willing to give up their lives for each other, and so that part was really nice, I thought. Anyway, excellent action. Robert Rodriguez is always a fantastic action director, and having James Cameron as producer and the team behind him, I mean, he just had all the tools that was necessary to do this incredible movie.
So I very much enjoyed the movie as well. I agree with you. And Alex said the same thing when we came out. Like, the action was incredible in the movie. Truly, the highlight of this movie, first of all, the world. I had vibes of, like, The Fifth Element. I had vibes of Blade Runner, which you said. The world was super cool. Like, this, like, kind of neo-noir anime world, that you see in, like, so much this futuristic kind of movies. This movie embodied that, and that was super cool. Definitely the main actress. Only time I've seen her in something else, she was in the first season of American Horror Story, like this, kind of like an extra character. I'd never seen her before, but she was fantastic. And then her name was Rosa Salazar, and she was definitely the heart of the movie. Sometimes, things get lost in CG, and this was definitely not the case. Like, once she's on screen, you're just glued to her. And, you said that the movie was 2 hours plus. I didn't feel it. Like, I was so into the movie, I did not feel it. So she was definitely the highlight. Her romance with the boyfriend I've enjoyed, even though I thought the ending parts, we are talking spoilers here, the ending parts were definitely a little melodramatic, a little cheesy, But I was sold on the romance. Like I said, the movie as a whole was a very cool sci-fi action adventure movie. Robert Rodriguez, you've seen his little touches here with some of his, like you said, like this one guy playing a guitar, a little throwback to the mariachi, like little Spanish kind of things in there. Like when she comes out in the end, there's a sign in Spanish saying like Alita's gonna make heads roll, but it was in Spanish, so that was like Robert Rodriguez kind of influence there too. You even seen some of just. The one that jumped out at me immediately was Jeff Fahey, who's been in some of his movies before, and Robert Rodriguez's movies, who had like a little guest appearance in this with the dogs, My complaint with the movie is that it just throws too much at you and never goes back to it. Like, it explains, like, okay, she's a cyborg and she eats and she's hungry. Like, what is a cyborg in this world exactly that she actually is hungry, that she eats? It throws a lot at you, the whole thing about the motorball and the final champion. I don't know if she became the final champion or she was about to go into the whole thing to become the final champion, to go up to Solemn. And is she even safe in doing that? Because Vector had his hands in all this. And then the whole thing of, like, Dyson, who was played, my God, I'm forgetting his name right now, but Dyson, the guy who plays her father in the movie, he was okay with her at one point, like going into the motorball thing, but then for the most of the movie, he was like against it, and then she was just doing it. So it's the movie, a lot of fun. She was fantastic in it, but my complaint with the movie is that it just throws so much at you and just keeps rolling. It doesn't like take time to stop and explain things. And maybe I'm a dunce, and maybe I need things to be explained, but that's the issue with the movie for me. But if we're comparing these futuristic kind of sci-fi movies, I'm sorry if I'm going on too long. If we're comparing these futuristic kind of sci-fi movies, let's say the 3 that we've seen together, We've seen Ghost in the Shell almost a year to the date, because Ghost in the Shell came out around this time. We've seen Blade Runner, and we've seen this. And if we're talking about movies as a whole that were fun and enjoyable, this is the number one for me of those three. I would say this was a lot of fun. Blade Runner second, and then Ghost in the Shell is like a distant third, because it was good, but it just doesn't hold up. It didn't make me want to go back and watch this. I'll watch this again. That's how much I enjoyed this movie with subtitles to try to understand everything. But yeah, that's those are my thoughts there. And I also want to say, my God, I'm forgetting the guy's name. While I'm talking, just Google the actor's name, who was the father in this movie.
Oh,
Christoph Waltz. Yeah. He was fantastic. But Jennifer Connelly has the same thing, I think, that Angela Bassett and Angela Bassett has. She just never ages. This woman looks fantastic still. Jennifer Connelly does it. She's in this. Yeah, she was good. Mahershala Ali, he was a great villain. He was a villain, like I was told, in the first season of Luke Cage. Almost like a sympathetic villain. He was great as a sympathetic villain in that, and he was great in this. But the big bad was Ed Norton, who looked like something out of the 80s. You know, he looked crazy, but he I didn't even, I thought it was James Cameron at one point. You know, like that's how this Nova guy looked. He looked so funny, you know. But he looked like I said, something out of the 80s, 90s, like some villain's head, looking character. He looked goofy. But like I said, as a whole, this is very enjoyable. This is a lot of fun, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely a crowd pleaser. It was very, well casted with Christoph Waltz as the father. He's always great. What's his name? Mahershala Ali?
Mahershala Ali.
Mahershala Ali. He was absolutely perfect. And he looks so much like Vector in the comic books. I showed you a picture.
You did.
And then the way they dressed him. I mean, every time you see him, he's in another cool way of looking. What he's wearing, and it's with the glasses. I mean, he was looking good. And it was just a lot of fun. I think this is one of these movies where you just have a great time, and you want to see it again, get a little bit more. I feel like. These animated movies, like we talked about just before we did the podcast, like, a lot of these, a lot of thrown at you kind of mangas like Akira or Ghost in the Shell. Like when you watch them at first, you don't get them all, and then you get a little more every time. This is not maybe as I don't think you have to watch this as many times as you have to watch Akira to get it, because Akira is really complex, and in fact, there's more. Because the movie's like only part 2 of 6 books, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about. It's just like I think this is one of these movies we'll enjoy it when we watch it a second and third time, and it's a whole lot of fun. It's a crowd pleaser. It's a popcorn movie. It may not be Shakespeare, but hey, it's a classic story of good and evil and corruption, and it keeps you entertained throughout. So anyway, going into scores, I would say it's an 8. I liked it a lot. And it's one of the few movies, they're getting better because of the technology, but, one of these few movies that really make live-action anime look good. And I was trying to think, what other movies did that so good? And even though it also didn't get the best reviews, but I loved it, and I think you did too, was Speed Racer. Speed Racer. And this is like living animation. I mean, living Japanese anime. It's just it's really good.
But I don't compare this to something like Akira, because I'm talking more about like anime, made into live action. I think like Ghost in the Shell dropped the ball with it. This one, it succeeded, but it still threw too much at you. And so I don't compare this to Akira, where you have to watch the anime or read the anime. Like I'm talking about like, if you never knew about anything about this world and you just saw this, like I did, I know James Cameron was trying to produce this for like 20, 30 years. It's forever. So I'm finally glad that it came out, and it was a lot of fun. But actually, you made a great point. Like I think if you're talking about like an anime to live action, and the movie gets panned, but I so loved Speed Racer. I thought that movie was so much fun, Yeah, I really like it. It was on Netflix like maybe a couple months ago, and I watched it all over again. That's how much I enjoyed that movie. And I remember seeing it multiple times in the theater. So I think I would love for us to have a conversation maybe like of the best kind of animes that came into live action that were actually good. But this movie's in that conversation. I would definitely say that this movie's not perfect. My score, I would say like a 6.5. Like I said, overall very enjoyable, but it just threw too much at you. It was like, eat this plate, now eat this plate, now eat this plate, and just don't even question, just eat it. You know, and that's what this movie does. But
I feel like that's how Robert Rodriguez's movies usually are.
I disagree. Because sometimes movies are so simple, just kill the bad guy. You know, that's sometimes his movie.
I mean, like, what if his movies are not like that? I mean, he's giving you all you want, and I mean, are they? Are his other movies like much different? Like in terms,
They're simpler. I think they're simpler, like a Machete or Once Upon a Time in Mexico. I think they're simpler.
Oh, okay.
Which are so much fun. Yeah.
Okay. I see what you mean. Okay.
But a 6.5 for me, 7 for Jason. This was fantastic, though. I still really had a great time and left smiling.
I said 8.
Oh, 8
8,
for
yeah.
Jason. I'm so sorry. 8 for Jason, 6.5 for me. But speaking so much about anime movies and about Ghost in the Shell, check out our review, and that's going to be the next video coming right on up. And if you have any thoughts on this movie or Ghost in the Shell, please comment below.